Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelly. Today I am going to go back into the Natasha Denona Pastel palette and compare it to the BH Cosmetics Los Angeles palette. It says Lost in Los Angeles. I can see how you do that. Well, LA is like really spread out. It's not a, in my opinion, it's not a walkable city. I would rather walk around, well, there's a lot of cities I wouldn't walk around anymore because things have gone badly, gone poorly over the last couple years, in all honesty. There's some, I don't know, there's cities that I love walking around. LA is a tough one. I think in LA you need a car, which means that you have the LA traffic, which they're known for. There you go. Walking around Hollywood though, that's kind of fun. Beverly Hills. Those are good places kind of near LA. All right, you guys. So this is a palette I'm gonna do a little compare and contrast. This is what the Lost in Los Angeles palette from BH Cosmetics look like. This, just as a reminder, is what the palette from Natasha Denona looks like, her spring release. By first glances, boy, they have a similar look and feel, don't they? So I thought maybe we would do, I want to do two looks. I want to do two looks with one palette on one side and one palette on the other. I'll take it all off and come back and I'll do a second look with these because that would be Allie letting me know she's here. I think one of the things that has come up in conversation since the pastel palette is released is, okay, I'm not a pastel wearer. I'm not going to exclusively wear pastels. How do I use this pastel palette in conjunction with some of the palettes that I already have? So I figured I would do a look with each just to see if we can get anywhere near a similar vibe. And then I'll come back and do kind of a look of how I would do it, which is going to be incorporating some neutrals in here. Boy, you know, when I look at these and really try to put these together, I don't get a ton of overlapping shades, in all honesty. I am going to use the same brush on either side. I'm going to Sigma color switch it in between. Sigma switch, I guess. It's not color switch, it's just Sigma switch. I'm going to start with this kind of apricot-y color, and I'm going to use my, we'll say my left eye will be the Natasha Denona higher end one. This is a little bit smaller of a brush than I probably needed to grab. It was the first one I grabbed. What am I using? It's a Sigma brush. I've been using a lot of Sigma brushes lately. I think I must have washed these, and so now the Sigma brushes are at the top of the pile. Stack, jar thing. You guys are too far away. I'm sorry. I was so excited to film this that I forgot to scoot you guys in, so my apologies. Not a professional YouTuber. Okay, cleaned off the brush. I'm gonna grab this kind of coral color on the BH side. And just so you guys are aware, my eyelid primer today is the one from Beauty Bay. Looks like this. I've been really enjoying it. It's maybe not as smoothing as I like. I think if you use too much, I think it becomes pretty easy to, I think it's easy to get too much and then you get a little crepiness is probably what I'd call it on the lids. But it does have a little bit of opacity to it, a little bit more than a little bit. It has a pretty good opacity to it. And that allows me to really be able to see the shadows that are coming through here. So I'm gonna build up the Natasha side just a little bit more. The main differences between these two shades, because they're not really trying to be inspired by or a dupe. I mean, the BH ones came out first. But I feel like the Natasha side is maybe a little bit more orange, whereas the BH side is a little bit more pink. I'm gonna grab this darker purple right here. I believe this is a cream formula, and my first efforts with this palette, I really wanted this to be my darker contour shade, kind of like how I'm using it right now. And I find that it just goes on very sheer. All right, so that's with the purple and that coral color. This is gonna be my closest one on the BH side. And I feel like this is going on just a little richer, a little bit more fluorescent. Maybe not so much the kind of celestial sheer wash of color. This one's more of a brighter, now I've gone into it several times, but a little bit more of a brighter. Not super saturated though. I mean, I don't even know how, I'm not describing it right. The colors actually, I'm cleaning up my brush. I'm going back into the Tasha side. I feel like the colors are actually not that far off. This one has a little bit more of a brighter touch to it. This one is just harder to build up. On the Natasha side, let me grab another brush here. On the Natasha side, I've got this kind of, it's almost like a, I'm gonna call it mauve, but I think it's a little bit warmer than a true mauve. I'm gonna take some of that on the actual eyelid. It's lighter than that purple I used on the outside, and I didn't use this one too much. I did this eyeshadow look before. It's so light to me. Okay, On the BH side, I don't have that exact shade. So I'm going to grab a little of the coral and a little of the pink. And let's see if I did pretty good. Yeah, that's a pretty good match, mixing those two shades together. All right, this eye look right now is lacking for me. I don't have enough definition. I'm going to go back into, this is the BH side, I'm gonna go back into this coral right here, which is more of an apricot, I guess. Was the first shade I used, and I'm just trying to give that a little bit more definition. I'm gonna go back over to the Natasha side. That's same shade that I used the first time around. Most of the looks I've seen with this palette have been very much pinks and blues. This is more of a pink and orange. So I don't have a super dark color in here. This just does not transfer quite enough product. You know what, let me try it with my finger. Because it is a cream, I don't think that really made a whole lot of difference. Let me grab a flat brush here. I'm gonna get this flat brush dampened. I'm gonna use a little MAC Fix Plus on a flat brush and go back into this purple and see if I build up. It just doesn't really want to darken up to the level that I need for a contour shade. I mean, it's fine. It's very light and summery or springy. I'm gonna clean out that brush a little bit. I'm gonna go into this other color here on the BH side. If the question is, do you love lighter, brighter pastels? Then I think if you've got one, do you need the other? I'm gonna say no. I don't think if you have one, you need the other. The only way I would maybe do a look like this is with a little bit more of a dark graphic liner here. I'm just gonna throw on this very inexpensive drugstore liner. I think this is from Jordana. Got rid of a bunch of these recently, but once we get that on, kind of darken up those lashes a little bit. Let me put some mascara on, and I'll tell you, would I actually leave the house wearing this? All right, you guys, I am back with a little bit of mascara, some eyeliner, and mascara makes things better. It doesn't make things perfect though for me. This is, and I might have even got some mascara on my lid. This is a very, very light, bright look. Would I wear something like this out in public, in daytime, in the summer? Maybe if I was feeling extremely confident. It's not something I'm very comfortable with. I don't know what to tell you guys about the actual color combinations. I just don't gravitate towards all pastel looks. And I'm sorry, if that's your thing, I applaud you guys. I do think pastels look beautiful. I just don't feel comfortable seeing it in myself as much. I feel like it makes my eyes look a little smaller, a little more hooded, a little bit more sleepy, and I don't need any help with that. I have the lack of sleep and stress to give me the sleepy look. Are these exact dupes? These palettes are not exact dupes. When I look at my eyelids right now, I am not seeing a difference between the two palettes at all. And that's shocking because when I look at these, I think there's no way I can do the same on both. I'm gonna grab this shimmer right here on the BH side. I'm just gonna pop a little bit of that right on the center. That might have been what no, I'm fooling myself. It's not what I needed. And I cleaned my finger off mostly, yeah. Fingers cleaned, and I'm gonna go into this one on the Natasha side. The last time I used this one, it's kind of almost a coppery color. Put it over the top of a blue eyeshadow. Okay, even that shade looks very similar on both eyes. Okay, you guys, so that's look number one with each of these palettes. If I'm looking at these, I'm gonna say, yeah, I can get a similar look from both these palettes, but not all shades are gonna transfer exactly the same way. For instance, this shade right here on the Natasha side, this periwinkle shade, is a matte, whereas the corresponding shade on the BH side is a shimmer. So different textures, something to think about. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna take this off. I'll be right back with one more look, comparing the two palettes, but with an alternative palette is how I would use it. So give me just a second to clean this off. I'll be right back. Okay, you guys, I am back, and for fun, I just picked up this little quad of ColourPop eyeshadows. This one is Feeling Coconutty. I do still have, or I did put back on the Beauty Bay eyelid primer just for fun and consistency. I haven't used this one before, but if it's anything like all the other little ColourPop quads, it's gonna be just fine. So I figured I would use this because I wanted to do kind of what I did for my third look when I did my first video with this palette. This is gonna be a little bit different, but we're gonna set the stage early on, and I'm using the same shadow and the same same technique on both eyes. I'm just packing on, and this is so pigmented. I grabbed just a tiny bit amount of that brown, and I'm gonna have to get a clean brush to distribute it out a little bit. These little quads, you guys, I haven't found one yet that hasn't been very easy to use. Oh, Zeus came in here. Hi, Zeus. Get a little clean, fluffy brush, and I'm just gonna kind of buff this into my crease a little bit, kind of soften that up. When I did my first look with this Natasha Denona pastel palette, I did transition shade / crease shade and an outer contour shade that I pulled from the Safari palette, which is an all matte palette. This time, instead of going back into the Safari palette, I just thought I would grab kind of an inexpensive little quad, because I feel like everybody's got brown eyeshadow somewhere. And when you start with a brown eyeshadow, then the pastel palette, in my opinion, becomes infinitely more wearable. So I'm just starting with my basic contour, roughly that. I am gonna take this shade right here too. It's a little lighter and a little more satiny, but I'm just gonna take it into the crease a little bit more definition in there. So with these pastel shades, starting with this kind of dark brown, sort of smoky eye, I can go in a variety of different directions, right? So the first time I did this look, which was my third and final look, when I did my first video on this, I used this down below. I used these two on the lid. My last look, I relied a little bit more on these coral colors. My first look I actually really liked, and I used a lot of these pinks. I think I even put a pop of that on there too. I don't really care for the blues, which makes me want to use them, except for the blue that I have in the BH Cosmetics one that matches this is a shimmer and not a matte. I think what I'm gonna have to do is combine some colors again. We're gonna have to get a little creative here. We'll make this work here. So I'm gonna take, on the Natasha side, I'm gonna grab that minty green, the minty green and this darker blue. I'm putting those colors together, and we'll put this on the lid here. Again with the minty green, darker blue. If I'm doing a light blue eyeshadow, it's kind of how I'm doing it. This time I'm gonna start with the blue, green. I don't hate that. It's definitely looks more of a pastel blue. Now I'm gonna go in, here, I'm gonna clean the brush off. I'm gonna go into this shade over here. I flipped my brush over too, on the BH side to see how close is that. You know what? It's a little bit more green, less blue, but it's not that far off. And if I'm gonna wear a pastel blue eyeshadow, this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do this dark brown and a lighter pop of something fun in the middle. When one hand we're trying to dupe this palette in these shades, on the other hand we're just trying to figure out how to use light blue eyeshadows a little bit more. When I blended in that lighter blue, carried away here. But that's what I do, is I end up going back and forth between the two. Okay, that's actually the exact way that I would do a light blue eyeshadow. And they look, between the two, it's hard. I mean, now granted, I've got an untrained, unprofessional eye, but I'm having a hard time seeing the difference between these two shades. This one's a touch more, just slightly more green. Maybe if I grab that green again from here. I didn't want to do exactly the same look that I did before. Yeah, see, that looks even more similar. I didn't want to do the exact same look, but I did want to, you know, face my demons, which is the light blues, which I don't love. And the rest of the shades are just hard to get a good match on. As far as like the yellow and greens go, you've got this yellow, you've got this, which is kind of like this gorgeous sort of grungy green. I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful shade. Kind of a shimmery olive, green olive, but I don't have a matching one on the Natasha side. And the yellow, let me go into this yellow here, gold shade. It's another shimmer, and it is a yellow gold, whereas this one in here, which came originally from the Tropic palette, is going to be more of a bright light pastel. I mean, it's a beautiful shade, but there's no way those are the same at all. Let me put some mascara on. We'll finish up the conversation. All right, you guys, I'm back. Mascara always makes things a little bit better. I gotta get this glasses on my head here. This is my appreciation for the pastel palette, is putting a little pop of it on the inner side of my lid. Now, I am a, you guys have heard me say this before, close set, hooded, mature lids, right? When you're looking at me, when I'm looking at you straight on, you're not gonna see a ton of that blue. You're gonna get a little glimpse of it, but it's only when I blink that you get a little bit more of it, the flash of that color. I think you get the hint of it right now, and I do think it brings a little lightness to the center, which helps my eye shape, frankly. It's all optical illusions, right? I think the point I'm trying to make here is, one, this is not an exact dupe. if you have this, can you get a lot of the same similar looks to it? Yes, you can. In my opinion, you can. The way I use this palette is in conjunction with another palette. I don't care if you have an all matte palette, an all neutral palette, if you have an inexpensive palette, drugstore friendly palette, one of her more expensive ones. But for me to use this palette and get enough use out of it to warrant the $65 price tag, I have to pair it with a neutral shade. And probably with these, it's going to be a cool toned neutral shade. So think Stone Cold Fox, Going Coconuts, even the Glam palette. Something with kind of a little bit more on the grayish brown side is how I'm going to be able to pair it with any of these shades. The one shade that I haven't used yet that I really want to, I haven't used it at all for anything, is this bright neon green. And I think what I said before is if I were going to use a color like that, I'd probably use it in the center, and maybe not necessarily with this blue, but I would do a big, and I'm going to use it on the other side because I don't have the same color on the other side or in the other palette, but I would use a neon like that probably right there as a nod at a trend, because I think there's some of that going on right now. Probably a bad example of it in here, but just for fun, yeah. It's a very much a bright fluorescent color, and it's really pretty, and that's the only place. Well, I might put it on my lid with the brown. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I don't know if this was helpful at all. Trying to give you guys, I gotta calm this down a little bit here because it's hard to look at myself talking with this. I hope that this provided you guys at least some more information if you were looking at this, trying to figure out if you needed to incorporate it into your spring wardrobe. In my opinion, if you have a healthy collection and you feel like you're missing out on some pastels, well, by all means, you know, consider it. I am not sponsored, affiliated. I get nothing in PR. I don't have any codes for you to pick this up. Natasha does do occasionally, she'll do codes on her website, so you're welcome to, you know, register for her website. She might even start you off with like a welcome 10% off or something if you haven't ever registered on their site. Sephora, you can use their points system, VIB, sometimes to get a little bit of a savings, a little bit of a discount on here. That's about the only thing I can say if you're not interested in paying the full $65 for that palette. If you need a pastel palette, well, take a look at BH. Recently bought out by another company, I believe, or they're in the process of getting bought out by another company. But this gives you a lot to create similar sort of looks. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to leave you with that right now. I wanted to come back and get back to you guys on kind of a comparison between these two palettes because I had some questions about it. And a little bit more of a question of how are you really going to wear it? I'm pairing it with some neutrals. That's how I'm wearing pastels this year. Maybe in the future it'll change, but for now, that's how I'm pairing pastel shades because I just can't get behind them. All right, you guys, I hope you guys are doing really well. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you're not already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.